Welcome to Bitrix24 Live. I am Damien Edwards, Commercial Manager of Bitrix24 Partners. We are Interface. Contact details are on the screen there. We're based in the UK and we have offices in the US and Dubai. And with me I've got our Projects Manager, Danielle.
Hi everyone.
If you've got any questions, post your questions in the chat window, please. And we'll stay online for about an hour and answer any questions that you post to us. We've got some questions that have come in via email previously, which we can start off with. If you want to get in touch with us on any of those contact details at all afterwards, then we can provide a demo for you. So if you've got some in-depth requirements that you want to discuss with us, then we can arrange a one-to-one demonstration for you. So send over your inquiries to sales@interface.com or use one of those telephone numbers on the screen. We'll kick off with a couple of questions that have already come in. I'm evaluating Bitrix24. Is this software useful for communicating with my team? Let's have a look at communication tools. So the answer is yes. So Bitrix is a solution for sales and project management and all the communication that goes with managing sales and projects, and a number of different ways you can communicate with your team, a number of ways that you can reduce the level of email traffic and communicate on within the platform. So you can post out messages, to the whole team in the activity stream. So if I add all employees, or you can select individual employees like this. You can also select groups and departments, and this allows you to send text messages, to share files. You can actually do a live video recording as well. So when you communicate in this way in the activity stream, it allows people to like it and add their comment to your post, so you get to see, and everyone gets to see, all the activity on that post. So it can be a bit clearer for large group communications. It can be a bit clearer than email communication.
Okay, so
good. I've just got a couple more. I'm going to go through. Sorry, I was just going to mention that work groups have their own activity stream. So we looked at the homepage activity stream, but if you go into a work group, then they all have their own activity stream for that group, and anyone who's a member of that group, as you can see on the right hand side, they've got access to this messages posted into that activity stream. And the homepage that we just looked at is a roll-up of all work groups that you belong to. The second way there's a few different ways. I'll just show you the chat, and I'll show you how you can tag people as well on records. But the second main way of communicating in the platform is to use the chat tool on the right hand side. So there's a chat bar that sits on the right hand side. You'll see colleagues appear in this chat bar with an indication, a status indicator on their profile. And if they send you a message, it will pop up that you've got a new message, and you can chat with them. So you can chat, you can voice and video call as well. So really all the functionality you have within Skype, you can do within groups within Bitrix, and this is all in the browser window, so it's not a separate application that you're downloading. Just the other way of communicating with people is in the CRM. So if I'm discussing a deal, if I'm working on a deal, then you can create a chat about just that specific deal. You might just want people to check that. So you can create a chat on that deal. I mean, the other thing you can do is just mention people as well. So I can I can tag somebody onto this deal, and by mentioning them in a post, I'll receive a notification and a link to this deal. So, yeah, there's a number of different ways that you can chat. Communicate with your team inside Bitrix.
Okay, so we had a question about employees and whether there's a limit to the amount of employees you can have in departments. So there isn't a limit to the amount of employees you can have within departments and sub-departments. So you'll see in the employees tab and company structure, you can see how many employees are in each department, and also get details of each of those by hovering over them or also clicking the link at the bottom of the department. So as you can see here, this department has got quite a few sub-departments, and that's similar principle. So there isn't a limit to the amount of sub-departments, and there isn't a limit to the employees within each of those.
Okay. Can you show me how to set up a lead automation when a form gets submitted? The email automation needs to have a condition in it that checks the lead's name form, so that it only sends when that form is submitted. I might come back to that one.
So I think
we can have a quick look at the basics of it. Can you show me how to set up a lead automation when a form gets submitted? So we look at a form, shall we, first? So if you go into CRM Forms, you can create a new form by clicking on this button here. I think you need to be an admin to be able to access this area. And then we're talking about show me lead automation. So you can select any of the fields that exist within a lead. You can even add in custom fields if you create custom fields. That's how you create your form. Give it a name. Once you've created the form, go back into lead. Checks the lead's name. Oh, I think I know how to do it. So if we go back into the lead, if you click into automation rules, then we can use this as a trigger, I believe. So we have this item called CRM Form Submission. So you can use this as a trigger to change the stage of a lead. Might be that as part of your business process, part of your sales process, at the first stage you send out an email. We've got here thank you email with a link to where the form is published, and if then the form's completed, it can change the stage to say, we had a stage here called, let's say, form completed. It just make you aware of which of those prospects have completed the form. You can select the form that you've created from the list here, so any forms that are live and have been created will be available in that list, and then we can add a condition. So the condition was checks the lead's name, so you can do any sort of condition on the lead name. So you could say equals or does not equal, or some of these like more than or less than are usually used for values. So if you want to use a condition based on, say, the value of a lead, if you're putting values into a lead, you might want to assign leads to people where the value's over a certain amount, goes to a different team. You can do a condition on that. But I could check whether the lead name equals something that something specific. So you'd add your condition in there. I'm not save that because I'm not putting a condition in, but essentially we drop it into there, and when a form gets submitted and that condition that you've added is met, then it will change the stage of this particular lead to this second stage, and it will trigger these actions that sit below there. Can I integrate an email into a task? Can Can it integrate an email into a task? You can, if you're using Bitrix webmail, then you can, if I open up the mail, select a mail, and I think you can create a task from it here. So that's a manual process. So you select it'll bring in all the content from the email into the task. That's a manual process. If you have the self-hosted edition, then you can create automatic processes from incoming emails that could create a task. So every time an email comes in to a specified email address, create a task. We get asked for that quite a bit, where you might have a service team. Instead of having a shared email box, they want to have tasks so that they can add content to those emails. So it uses the functionality in the self-hosted edition that generates help desk tickets. The self-hosted edition has a help desk. Instead of creating a help desk ticket, you can use the functionality, the process that's built in to create a task. Okay, so just a quick look at tasks. As I mentioned, the reason why you might want to convert all incoming emails to tasks is that you could assign it to a group of people here, automatically, so that more than one person has access to this. So it can be dealt with when people are not in the office. But you can also then add comments to it. So you could hand it over from one person to another and view all the comments. So.
Okay, so we had another question about keeping in touch with colleagues whilst working at home. So Damien touched upon this a little bit earlier, but probably the best way to do this is through the chat. So if you go over to chat, you can create a new chat up here, so a private chat, and you can then select who you would want to be in that chat. So you can either type names in and add them in like this, or you can type departments in as well. So however you want to find the people you want to chat with, type them into there to create it, and then you can start chatting. So this creates a private group just with the people that you have added, so it's a good way of keeping in touch. You can also add attachments, so you can send files from your computer or from your drive. There's also a way that you can sort of tag the people that you want to sort of directly speak to within the chat if you've got a question just for those people. You can also add emojis as well, which makes it a bit more personal. It's just a good way of keeping in touch whilst you're all working at home and staying connected with all your colleagues.
Okay, hello. We have our own web form for Lee, because form is a little more complex. Can you please let me know how we can put attachments directly into custom web form that is created via API call? So we can integrate. So of course Bitrix has its own web form, as you suggested there. Some people use their own forms, don't want to change because they might have additional functionality, or they might have just built a lot of forms. We can integrate with other web form providers, and we do that quite a bit. And as you suggested there, it needs to be done via the API. How it's done would depend on your web form provider and the API, and it would be a bit beyond the scope of what we'd be able to cover today. But we can certainly quote you for the work. If you wanted to let us know, send over to sales at Interface. If you want to send over who the web form provider is, and if it's a common one that we're aware we've worked with before, it'd be fairly straightforward. But we'd have to quote you for the work. I think it's to develop a job, and so probably beyond what we'd be able to discuss today. How do I add serial number to line item in a generated document in CRM? For instance, 1 item, 2 item. Okay, so add a serial number to a line item in a generated document. So if we go into the CRM, just to explain what's possible. So in any of the CRM records, you can generate a document. You can create a template and generate a PDF document from that, and you want to add a serial number to it. Let's have a look at the documents. Let's go into something. Let's go into deals and see if we've got. Let's go into quotes, in fact, which would be better to have more documents in there. So let's open up a quote. Let's go into a different site. Sorry, bear with me a second. Let's go into this site. It's got more data in here. Let's go into quotes. So you can generate a document. We've got one here called quote. How do you add a serial number? So you can design a document better than that one, and you can, as you know, you can add in any of the fields that exist within the quote can be pulled into that. I'll just, so that people know, just show you how you do that. Documents. So add new template. So these are all the templates that you have. You can download these templates and as a Word file, and then you can edit them, and you can bring in any fields that exist, the standard fields that exist within the quote, or any fields you've created. You can bring in those fields into the template. So if you select fields, it will show you what's available, and then things like quote date will be something you might want to display on the PDF of the quote. Just need to use this reference inside the curly brackets on your Word document, and that will pull in the data. So the way to do you wanted to do a serial number would be to generate a field, a custom field as a serial number, if that exists. Let's have a look. So it's a bit different in quotes because we have to generate I think we have to generate the custom fields in the settings page. Yeah, let's go into settings. If we go into forms and reports and custom fields and quotes and add field, there should be a field which is, let's have a look. Okay, I thought there was probably a field which was a consecutive number, but it doesn't look like it actually exists. So there is a custom field, maybe it's in Tasks or somewhere else, that allows you to generate a consecutive number. In fact, it's probably not in quotes, maybe it exists in invoices. But yeah, so it doesn't look like you're going to be able to do that simply. But if you've got the field type that you want to use in this list, you can generate a custom field, and then you can pull that information through into the quote. But creating a consecutive number doesn't look like you can do that. It does, of course, a quote does of course automatically generate a consecutive quote number, but you can't create, you don't have a custom field you can do that generates consecutive numbers, unfortunately.
Okay, so we had a question earlier in the week about pausing business processes until a certain task is complete. So, yep, that is possible. So we're still within the CRM and within settings. If you go to automation and business processes, you can select the process that you want to work on. So let's just work on one we already have in here. Okay, so you can add tasks in to any of the business processes, and if you click on the settings cog of the task, you'll see there's this option, so pause process whilst task is running. So all you need to do is set that to yes, and once you've completed the template for the task, once that process is running, then any automation and processes after this task will not start until this has been completed then. So obviously if you had this set to no, the task doesn't need to be completed until you can move on.
Okay, how do I edit a list item from task automation? Let's have a look from task automation. Task automation is quite new, so some of the functions that might be limited in terms of the number of functions that we've got. Let's go into a task configure and it says edit list item, so does seem to let you do that. So it should be fairly straightforward. You can select here edit list item, and then you've got the options to run straight away or have some delay in that. You can add a condition in, so that again, any fields that exist within the deal, you can look at, things like status or responsible person. You look if that condition's met in order for this item to run, and then essentially you can look for the list, and you can add your value in here. If you wanted to change something in there, I'm trying to think of a good example of what you might want to change in a list item, but you could add your value in there of what you want to change. You can actually bring in then data from somewhere else within the task and populate it into the field here that you're going to use as the data that's inputted, the change that you're making to the list. So you could bring in, say, the responsible person's name and that. So if your list item, I think I'll just play around with that. Essentially, select your list item from here, and then add in the information that you want to use as it's going to change to in this box here.
Okay, so we had a question in the week about pipelines within deals. So how do you add pipelines, and also is there a limit to the pipelines you can add? So it's fairly simple to add pipelines. So if you go into deals within the CRM, then you'll see over here you have your sort of pipeline drop-down list. So within here you can see any pipelines that are already created. If you want to create a new pipeline, you go to Sales, Funnels and Tunnels. Then you can see all of the pipelines that are already created. So if you go to Add Funnel at the top, then you can create a new pipeline. And within here you can also change the stages of the pipeline as well. So you can rename any of these to whatever you'd like to call them. You can also delete any pipeline stages that you don't want, and you can add more as well. You've also got the won and lost statuses here, so you can change the name of these if you want to, and you can play around with those as well. So that's how you create multiple pipelines and the stages within them.
Okay, how to attach multiple documents, for example quotes, to one email and send to customer without saving the PDFs on the desktop and reattaching them to the email. Documents to one email. So if you're in quotes, I mean, of course, if you're in a contact, you can send an email from a contact, I guess, and you can attach multiple documents in here. So that's just like any email client. There's no limit to the number of documents you can attach. I'm guessing you're referring to when you generate a quote, you click send by email button. Let's have a look at that. Send via email. So this generates an email PDF and sends it. You want to be able to attach multiple quotes. I mean, you're doing this, if this is what you're referring to, you're running this action from the quote, from a single quote. So there isn't a way to then attach additional quotes. I guess you can attach, like you suggested. You can't. You can attach additional. Can you attach additional files? Oh yeah, sorry. In here, yeah, you can attach additional files in here. So you suggested that you could download them and upload them, but there isn't a way to send multiple quotes. I can see maybe why, if you've got you've generated a deal, then from a deal you generated 3 quotes that are 3 different options for the customer, and why you might want to send those on one email. It doesn't look like you can do it, and let's just go into the quote list view and change that to a list view. And if we were to select the quotes that we want to work with, see if there's not an action down here to send via email. So that's what you would need, I guess, to select send via email, and then another box here to select the email template that you want to use when sending those. That could be done. We could customize your site to do that. It's not a standard feature, so it require. You'd have to get in touch with us, and we could send you over a quote to do the work. It doesn't look like it's going to be possible to do it as standard at all.
So we have a question about setting fields in a certain way for all of the users in the system. So you can do this if you're an administrator of the system. So probably the most popular entity you'd want to do this in is contacts. So if you go into CRM and contacts, if you click into a contact, you can change the layout of the fields then. So we've got the change button at the top of each section. So you can shuffle these around. So place the fields wherever you want them within the contact section. You can also add new sections to contacts as well, and select other fields that might not be appearing at the moment, so you might want to bring these in. You can also hide fields that you don't want to show anymore. And if you want to create a new section as well, you can do that. So at the bottom here there's add section, so you can rename this. And again, you can bring any fields that you'd like into that section as well. So once you're happy with the layout as it is, if you save that, then at the top of the contact on the settings cog, you can set common form view for all users, and that will just mean that any user in the system, they'll see the same view as you've set as administrator.
So there's our contact details. If you want to get in touch, we can provide you with a one-to-one demo. If you want to send over your list of requirements, we'll tailor a demonstration to those requirements and show you just how your business can run. Sales and projects can be set up inside Bitrix. You can do a one-to-one demo. You can do it online, or you can do it in your office. So get in touch with us if you have more complex requirements that we're not covering today. Follow up for the question about editing lists. There is no way to select the list item D when editing a list item in task automation. How else can this be done? So yeah, if that feature is not available to do that, then it is possible that because automation in tasks is quite new, it is possible that there'll be additional features coming through on that. If it's not available, then we could customize the site for you if it's important to you to create that feature for you. You probably would need a self-hosted edition, I think, to make that customization. But if you're on the self-hosted, then get in touch with us and we can give you a quote to do that work. If you're on the cloud, we can migrate you to a self-hosted edition. This might just be a small requirement, but if it's important to you, then we could migrate you to a self-hosted edition and we could set that work up. Couldn't really say if that feature would be available coming through from Bitrix, unfortunately. So although if you want to get in touch with us, and we could potentially consult with you on sort of workarounds and things. It might be that certainly we can do a customization for it. There might be some other options around it, that other ways of doing it. So, but yeah, if you actually wanted it the way you've explained it, then it looks like you have to customize the site to do that. How can I make CRM my homepage when I log in? So it's quite easy. So all you need to do is you can customize this menu on the left hand side. The one at the top will be the one that appears as the first page when you log in. Please can you explain how Sites module works? I can do that. So Bitrix includes sites, allows you to create public-facing websites. They're all built from templates, so you can select your template. In fact, let's go back and just select a template, a new one. So create a new site up here. So you've got a lot of templates, and Bitrix launch new ones all the time. So you're an accounting service, let's try that one. Select the theme color. And then you've got your templated website, and it'll bring in some stock text and images. You can edit then every single section of that, and it's all editable on the page, going to a back-end portal, and you can bring in additional elements as well into this. If we just scroll down and just roll over the section you want to edit, and you can change pretty much everything on it. So if you've designed websites before, you'll know that you want to change things like the padding around text boxes and image boxes. You can do all this to get it just the way you want it. It does allow you to then edit it, review it on different devices up here at the top before you actually publish it. So should be fairly straightforward really, in terms of you're editing the content live on the page like this. So I click in a piece of content and I can edit pretty much everything about it: text color, the font size, the fonts that you're using. Add a block in between sections. These are all the sort of standard content blocks that you've got. So things like video, you can add those in. So it's fairly straightforward, I think, to design using all this drag and drop on page editor tools. And then you can publish it. When you publish, you can there's a few settings you can do to point your domain name to the site. So it's published it on a domain up here, .bitrix24.site, but you go into your settings up here, then you can get the references to change your DNS settings so that the site is published on your own domain. So I think it's fairly simple to set up, same as really a WordPress editor tool, I think.
We've been asked about integration with LinkedIn. So at the moment this isn't available, but it is something that we're looking into, and hopefully in the near future it will be available. We were also asked about upgrading a cloud account to on-premise. So as Damien said earlier, we can help you migrate your cloud system to a new on-premise system. So you wouldn't lose your data if you were to move from cloud to on-premise. We just would arrange it with Bitrix and schedule a time in to do that, and then we'd let you know when it could be done, and then all of your data would be moved from your current cloud site into a new on-premise system.
Okay, is it possible and how a web form could be used as an input mask to a workflow? So you can use web forms as part of workflows to request information. Let's have a look. We did have a quick look at that, I think. So if you go into one of your workflows, then well, I guess you can use a web form, completed web form, as a trigger, but that's not what you want to do. You want to bring in the data from the web form. I mean, when you create a web form in Bitrix, you choose what entity the data should populate. So you choose, let's say we were looking at a lead, you choose that the data should populate the lead, or generate a new lead. So I'm not too sure about what the question, if you maybe want to expand on the question, but a web form will populate fields of a lead, and you can create your web form and you can send them as one of the stages of your automation. You can send them an email with a link to the web form. If they complete the web form, it will the data they put in the web form will just populate fields within the lead. So if we go to one of our leads, then you could have a section. You could create a new section here at the bottom. We could call this web. We could call it web form. And you would start by adding your fields. So you'd create your section, you'd add your fields that you want, the information you want to collect from your form, and then you'd go and create your form. You need to create the form second because you need to create the fields that you want first. So I could create a field for file or link or money field with my questions that I want to use in the form. And then once the form's created, it will populate this section of your lead. I mean, you can use that. You can sort of use some of that data then in your automation if you wanted to. I mean, if you wanted to do something like, let's say, if you wanted to send an email at a certain stage, you could add a condition which could look at one of those fields. So let's say the web form has a drop down with a selection of items, 3 products, and you ask the customer which they're interested in. We could then send an email out based on which one they've selected. We could use this condition here to look at which one they've selected. So I think if any of this sort of stuff, if you wanted to find out a bit more exactly how it would work for you, we'd be happy to set up a demo, show you exactly how that process would work for you. There's always different ways of handling these sort of requirements, but the first thing to do would be to create the custom fields in your lead, create the web form, and then use that. As that data gets populated in the lead, you could use it as conditions to do other things in the automation. Is there still unlimited for free accounts? I get an announcement in both sites, and creating additional templates is limited to 5, I think. So there is certainly limitation on the free account. It's unlimited a number of users now that you can add, but there's limitations on what you can do. So if you're talking about, I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about templates. Is it site templates? So there will be a limitation on the number of websites you can create on the free account. How do you change permissions with employees? So it depends on which area of the system you're talking about. So in this, you have permissions. I mean, you have permissions on work groups. Let's just do work groups and tasks, and then CRM. When you create a new work group, you're talking about changing them. So let's say we go into a work group that we already exists. Then go to your members, and you can change who is a member. within this work group. So you can move them around and add new people and remove them, and then they'll automatically, if they're not in this work group, they don't get access to it at all. So that's inside a work group, and within a work group you have tasks, and different people have access to tasks. So that's really just adding people into things, and they get different permissions based on adding them. In the CRM, you have more complex permissions. So if you go into the CRM settings and permissions, then you can create roles here and assign those roles to individual people here. So CRM has a lot of different modules, so things like contacts and companies and deals, quotes and invoices. You can create assign these different permissions across the top to each of those different modules. So what you might want to do is have access denied for something like export, but you could allow people to export just their own information. So you can create a whole permission structure, very detailed permission structure within the CRM. So in the self-hosted edition, you can do a bit more, where you can change permissions on the menu items as well. So you can have different people seeing different content on the menu, so you can get more complex.
Okay, so we had a question earlier in the week about subtasks and adding time to tasks if you forget to start your clock and add time, you want to add time manually instead. So if you go into tasks, tasks and projects up here, so you can add subtasks to tasks quite easily. So if you go into the task that you want to be the parent task and go on the arrow next to add, you can create a subtask from here. So you'd fill in the information for your subtask, any deadline, the responsible person, any other details that you want to complete. And once you've added this, you'll see that the two tasks then become linked. So this original task is now the parent task, and you now have a list of the subtasks below it. So if you also click into the subtask, you'll see that this has now got a parent task, which is the original. And if you do forget to start your time tracker, you can easily add time manually. So if you go into time elapsed, you can then just add the date of when you want to add the time and how long you spent on that task. You can also add some comments if you want to, so whatever you might want to add about the time spent, and clicking this will just save that time. If you want to go back into it and edit it, if you've added more time or you've added too little to the task originally, you can just go in and change that manually, and that will store against that task then.
Okay, can I do e-com on-site pages? It seems limited. You can. I mean, there is you can create products, and you create an e-commerce website. So it's called online stores here, and it is a beta solution. So there will be some limitations, or it won't have the same functionality probably that you're used to on other platforms, just because it's in beta at the moment. But there will be more features rolled out. I mean, it's fairly comprehensive. It probably wouldn't, if you're using Bitrix for other areas, then this is great to keep a lot of your business activities in one place. So try the online store, see if it does what you want. I mean, you can create your catalogue, add all your products. You can do automation. So you can send out emails, let's say, to suppliers if you're drop shipping, and send out emails when you receive an order. You send out emails to customers when they've been dispatched and things like that. So it can save the new contacts to the CRM. So it does have full e-commerce functionality in there. You design your pages the same way you can on the standard sites. But you just have to try it, see whether it does what you want it to do. How can I get a demo of web forms? If you contact us, sales@interface.com, we can do a demo of web forms. We did look at it just a few minutes ago. It is very straightforward. You go into the CRM and web forms section, then create your web forms, and maybe I'll just show you it now because we didn't go through the whole thing. So if you go to CRM and web forms, CRM forms, and you can add a form here. You need to choose your fields, and you can select fields from any of these modules here, whether it's fields that exist within a lead or any of these over here. Create your field form using the leads. Like I said earlier, if you want to use some custom fields, you'd have to create fields in the CRM record first, and then come in here and select them for the form. Choose who's going to be responsible, who those are going to be assigned to, and then choose down here what entity it wants to create. So the form has to create a record somewhere. Generally forms create leads, but they can create clients, deals or quotes as well. You've got some options here about if it looks like it's a duplicate, do you merge, replace or allow to create duplicate records. Got some design options down here. And when you create this form, not create that one, let's go to another one and I'll show you. Once you've created a form, save it and then come back into it, and it will show you, go down to the bottom, the code. So we've got a link here, so the form goes public on this random domain here, but you can use the code at the bottom to embed that form on your existing website. You can embed it in a page, or you can have it as a button with a pop-up, or you can have it as a time delay that automatically pops up after a period of time. So fairly straightforward to use. Sometimes, depending on what website builder you're using, you've got to get you might have to get your designer to add this code into it. Using Bitrix sites, then it's straightforward because from within the editor tool you can select a form that you've already built. You don't need to copy and paste the code over, so that's the easiest way of doing it. Let's put our contact details up in case you want to get in touch with us for a demonstration. If you explain what your particular problem is, then we will set up a demo, one-to-one demo for you. Can I buy the domain through Bitrix or have to port it over? So if you're talking about domains for websites, then you can't buy domains through Bitrix. No, you'd have to buy it from a provider and change the DNS settings to point it to Bitrix. Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions. If you want to, we mentioned a few times, if you want to send questions over to sales@interface, we can either do a demo for you, a one-to-one demo for you, or we'll look at the question on this session when we do it next week. Just one more question. Lastly, will affiliate be a future idea? I'm not too sure whether any affiliate marketing features are going to be added to, I guess you're talking about e-commerce stores. Not too sure whether that's going to be added. To be honest, I would probably say that it's not, but nothing that I'm aware of at this stage. But that's it. I think we don't have any more questions right now, so we'll finish it there. If you want to subscribe to Interface and Bitrix24 on YouTube, then you'll receive notifications about when we do live sessions, but we do them the same every week. So subscribe to us, but that's all we have for now. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Bye for now.